You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, I'm muted here, so I just realized I'm muted. Let me start that again, if you don't mind. We'll start it again. This is be the day that I would screw everything up, right? All right, we're running it back. So you're getting behind the scenes here. Clemson loses to Georgia Tech in a close one and a heartbreaker in Atlanta. We'll talk about it right here on Locked On Clemson.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked On Clemson. Clemson fan, still Clemson fan after all of this. Thank you so much for joining us in the post-game show here on Locked On Clemson after a heartbreaking loss, 24-21 versus the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in their first road game in the ACC. Just not ending the way that we had all hoped, and the season overall not going the way any of us had really hoped. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. For your second listen, you can check out all the other shows out there on the ACC and our squad shows as well. But I got to tell you, if you're new to the show, I do this show Monday through Friday every single week, and it's about a 25-minute, 30-minute show. We talk all things Clemson. So if you're new, hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate helping out with the algorithm. You know how YouTube is. The algorithm is extremely, picky about who they show what to. If you enjoy the show, that is. If you don't like the show, then you don't have to hit the like button. I don't care. But either way, it really helps me out for sure because, we got a lot to talk about. A lot more than back in the day when we were Clemson fans and Clemson was beating everybody 30, 40 points, because this is a side of a Dabo Swinney team that we've never seen really. And so I'm not really sure, or at least we haven't seen in over a decade. So I'm not really sure how to handle it. I'm in shock as much as you all are as well. I'm going through a lot of emotions right now. Frustrated would be number one, but not really something that should be that shocking, because we here at Locked On Clemson, myself, I'm hosting and producing the show. We talked about this. We talked about how Clemson needed to play a good game. And if Georgia Tech won the turnover margin, if Georgia Tech didn't have that many penalties, they were going to dominate the time of possession. And Clemson has stunk this season in time of possession. Absolutely stunk. They can't keep the ball. They don't know what they're doing on offense. Let's just say that. Okay. They don't know what they're doing on offense. And when they do, they're so inconsistent that you can't expect them to do it for 4 quarters. That's for sure. We haven't seen a complete offense for 4 quarters all year. And in a lot of ways, mostly last year, it was up and down. And so we're still seeing that. Against the better teams last year, they faltered. Now we're seeing them struggle against the average teams of the ACC. I mean, Georgia Tech is a good team in the sense that they know what they're about. They know their offense. They know their quarterback. They know what they want to do to move the ball and what works for them. Georgia Tech knows how to play offense with the players they have. Does Clemson? Sometimes they do. But not all the time. Right. So it is frustrating for sure. Again, I'm kind of going off script here because, it's another loss for Clemson. And this is one that could upend their entire season, because now they're not in the driver's seat even for the ACC. We thought that, they lost to LSU, well, they're still a good team. It could be 2 top 10 teams in the country just losing to each other. But now we can't say that. Okay. If you're still saying that, then you are a special kind of delusional when it comes to watching a football game, because this team is not a top 10 team on the offense. That's for sure. On the defense, they're still very bend, don't break. And they did the best that they could to keep the game alive. But the offense just, they barely can get to 21. I mean, it is a struggle again for this offense to get to 21 points. It is extremely difficult. And really the concern goes around, as Hunter gets in on the chat. Let me guess, Georgia Tech now is a playoff team. Yeah, I guess you could say that if you're that side of the fan base. Hey, everybody you lose to is a playoff team. Well, we got to start admitting that that's probably not the case, right? Clemson's got bigger problems than just losing to really good teams. That's what they were doing last season. But this season, we're seeing that they're consistently inconsistent. One thing that they are consistent with is having a slow start on the offense. I mean, they trailed early again in this game and couldn't get things going. They were down 3-0 in the first half or first quarter, and then Georgia Tech outscored them in the second quarter. And so they were down 13-7. And really, I believe that 13, if I'm looking at the play-by-play, that 13 points, that 7 points was really towards the end of the first half, so they scored on a 16-play, 75-yard drive. And you were like, wow, I actually felt good, because it felt like they were stringing things together, and it was all centered around running the ball first. So where they had some success, like I said, it was inconsistent, because they came right back out in the second half and made a huge mistake in the second half with an interception. So there's a few things that I think we have to point out. One is that there's a problem with the offense of starting slow, and I'm not really sure who's causing it. Is the offensive coordinator? Is it the quarterback? Is it the wide receivers? What is it that is causing this team to start so slow? They really fumbled on the first drive, of the game. And that was really, honestly, Cade Klubnik's fault. They strung together a couple of plays. They got a first down, and then Cade, didn't protect the ball properly and fumbled the ball. So he started out the gate with a turnover, which I told you he had to protect the ball. They had to protect the ball because Georgia Tech was going to own time of possession. Now, if I go over to time of possession, Georgia Tech 32 minutes, Clemson 27. Now, that's better than what we've seen in the past. But yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech still wins the time of possession. I don't know if there'll be many games this season that Clemson will win the time of possession. And it's not because they're scoring in 5 seconds or less. So that's the big concern. It's not because they're explosive scoring team and they're just, Chad Morrising you with 100 plays a game, 120 plays a game or something like that. No, it's not that. They're playing slow. They're not getting many possessions, and they're also not scoring. And that's giving the other team a lot of time on the field and giving Clemson's defense a lot of time on the field. So there's something there. We've seen this 3 games in a row now. And as I've told you on my podcast, a duck is a duck is a duck. When you see it, when you hear it, and when it acts like it, it's a duck. And at this point, this team is starting slow. And this is what is the expectation. This is the average, not the outlier. The outlier was not, just 1 game, not just 2 games. Now we have 3 games of proof that this team seems to be treading water at the beginning of the game, can't get out of their own way, whether it be the fumble that Cade Klubnik had, the missed field goal that they had. I mean, they actually drove the ball the second series down and missed the field goal, so they just can't get out of their own way. Then they punted. And then finally, at the end of the second quarter, they were able to string together a 16-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. So you got to think, hey, They have something that they can string together. They figured something out. But then again, it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe that's the outlier. Figuring it out maybe is actually the outlier for the team. And it gets frustrating when you see a team like Georgia Tech, because we told you this here on the podcast that Georgia Tech was going to know what they were going to do with the ball. I posted on X at the Morgan T Show. I gave you exactly, after watching the Colorado game, I wrote down every single play. I wrote down every single tendency I could find, every single player used, and I posted on X and I said, hey, this is what they're going to do. And it's nothing special. I mean, the announcer on the ESPN said, hey, this is, they're not doing a lot of the things. They're doing the same exact play, but just doing a different kind of motion. But the thing is, they knew what they wanted to do and they were confident with it. You can't say that about Clemson. You can't. Not right now. You can't say that. Clemson doesn't always know what they want to do, doesn't always look confident. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Georgia Tech definitely looked like a team that knew what they wanted to do on offense. And we knew that going into this game, to be honest with you. If you'd watched them for the Colorado game, we knew that. We knew that. We knew that last season because we saw what they were able to do last season. So it's not a shocker that Georgia Tech was moving the ball, running the football with the quarterback as the field general, because I told you that. I told you that would happen. So it's not a shocker. And really, with a defense standpoint, I'm not upset the fact that you held the team to 13 points through 3 quarters. I'm not upset with that. 11 points in the fourth quarter. The offense just can only really get 1 touchdown a quarter. I mean, in this game, and they couldn't string things together without getting in their own way. The biggest one for me, though, and we'll talk about the turnovers a little more, and I'll get to your comments too. I'm trying to do a different way of this live stream. Before the last post game, I did like a really structured version. I'm going to try to do more of like a really live version too. But yeah, so when we come back, I'm going to go to break. I got to do my ads. But when we come back, I'll talk to you about turnovers and how they hurt Clemson and why they're so frustrating for us to watch. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moving the game forward situation or play, I would say, is again Bryant Wesco and his big touchdown catch. He had another massive game, 7 receptions with 126 total yards and a touchdown, and a 73-yard touchdown catch running across the middle. Cade hit him in stride. Cade stayed in the pocket. That was a huge moment of the game that kept them within range of winning the game. Ultimately, they weren't able to win the game, but still a huge moment for that player who is continuing as a young wide receiver to get better and better as we see moving forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, I'm going to get into some comments here real quick and kind of look at what we got. We'll look at from the top. I wonder if I could load these on the screen. Yeah, there we go. Cosmos says they said a natty 16-0. Well, 16-0 is definitely off the table. I know some of the optimistic fans out there are going to say 10-2, 10-2. I don't see how you could possibly be a realistic fan if you're saying 10-2 at this point. This team has a difficult schedule ahead. I've already told you that many times on my podcast and many shows recently, and even on the radio on the Roar. Syracuse and Fran Brown is not a pushover team. They're going to come at you hard. He's a well coach. He's going to have a well coached team. He's a good guy. He's a good coach. He's going to coach his team up. Maybe you feel good about North Carolina, but that's a road game. Maybe you feel good about Boston College, but Boston College knows what they want to do on offense as well. And that's another road game. Then you have SMU at home, but SMU has a quarterback that is confident and, they want revenge. They want revenge against Clemson. Duke's a well-coached team as well and has a quarterback that they trust. Then you got Florida State. Florida State, again, they are another well-coached team. Which of these teams are you going to outcoach? Which of these teams right now? Because it seems as if the ACC is starting to get better than Clemson is keeping the gap, right? The gap is not there anymore. Not what we're used to as Clemson fan base. I mean, we were going into this season thinking that our only weakness as a Clemson team, as Clemson fans, it was the punting situation. That was the only weakness. And I am guilty of that because I told you that too. That's what I felt. We all felt it. Obviously, that's not the case. It's not just the punting team that is the weakness. Honestly, that might not even be a weakness at all. Then you have Florida State. Then you have at Louisville Friday night. Louisville, they just got their first win against Clemson in the ACC last season, and they were loving it. I mean, I'm telling you, I told you this last season on the radio. I wasn't on Locked On back last season, but I was on the radio, and I told you, and I got ripped to pieces on TigerNet about telling you that Louisville was going to come for Clemson because they're tired of losing. A fan base has enough, and they do enough with the transfer portal that you really don't know what you're going to get. And Clemson was struggling against the run, and they had a good running back. And Louisville won the game. I got to tell you, I'm not some sort of football genius. I didn't even play, football myself. I played soccer and 1 year at college at that. But still, when it comes to watching and analyzing sports, I'll tell you this. You can see when a team has momentum. You can see when a team is confident. You can see when a team knows what they want to do with the football. I don't feel that with Clemson right now. Now, maybe, do you trust Dabo Swinney? Yeah. I'm not. It's not about trust of Dabo Swinney. The guy has won 2 national championships, but he won them in the pre-portal era. He won them in the pre-NIL era. And what we're seeing is that NIL and portal spreads the wealth out, and it doesn't allow you to stack teams. Look back at that defensive line. Clemson has a pretty good defensive line this season. Look back at the defensive line that they used to have. 3 first-round draft picks. Okay? Actually, every single one of the guys on that defensive line was in the NFL or still in the NFL or is one of the better players in the NFL. When you go look at Dexter Lawrence, he's still commanding double teams at the NFL level. So when you compare the Power Rangers to what Clemson has right now, they don't have the Power Rangers. So we say, oh, well, they don't have Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun. Yeah, they don't have Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun either, but they definitely don't have the Power Rangers. So the talent on the team is different. And with the transfer portal and NIL, the spread of wealth of talent is going around a little bit more. And the ability to reset your team is a lot faster now because of that. Clemson is not able to reset their team as fast because they're sticking with their guys. They're developing their guys. That is a great philosophy, but you're not going to get quick turnarounds. You're not going to get quick fixes. And do you feel as if this team is going to be able to turn things around now? They're 1-2 in the first 3 games of the season, and we thought they were going to be undefeated. We thought they were going to be a national championship team. So I can understand where Cosmos is coming from over in the chat. I can understand that. Is you kind of feel jaded a little bit. Why is the team acting this way? Why is the team struggling this way? They're struggling to get to 21 points right now, which is what we saw into the DJU era, to struggle to get to 21 points. Very confusing, very frustrating. But I wanted to do this segment on the turnovers. And really, to me, the fumble was bad to start the game, but that was at the very beginning of the game, right? So the fumble there, the game was tied. It was only your first drive. Not huge problem, but still a problem. As I mentioned to you, you cannot lose the turnover battle and also lose the penalty battle and expect to win against a team that is going to control the time of possession. Now you didn't lose you did kind of lose the penalty battle. They had 25 yards instead of 16 for Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech had 3 penalties for 16 yards. Clemson had 2 for 25. So I wouldn't necessarily say penalties played a big role, but Georgia Tech, who had more total yards? Clemson actually had almost 23 more total yards, but 2 more turnovers. They were even on first down, 17 to 18, give or take. Pretty even on the penalties. Third down conversions, pretty even. Fourth down conversions, Clemson had 1. Georgia Tech went 0 for 2. But at the end of the day, we knew that they were going to try to control the time of possession, and turnovers would be a big problem. Now, they got 3 points off of the fumble, so you can count that because Clemson had them as a turnover on downs. Clemson defense came out the gate, 12 plays, turnover on downs. So Clemson defense held them at first, and then Cade Klubnik had a fumble, which, it's an unfortunate fumble coming from a senior having the ball in his right hand to the inside of the play. But still you really didn't know what you were getting from the offense at all. It doesn't seem like they had open wide receivers again that he's not seeing. And then they had the field goal, and then they had a missed field goal. So Georgia Tech got a field goal. Clemson got a missed field goal. So you could say that that's turnover on downs, really. I mean, in the same sense, that's another technical turnover, right? So two turnovers in a row, if you will, and Georgia Tech got a touchdown. So 10 points off of, two failed drives right out the gate. 2 failed drives right out the gate. And then they punted, and they got a field goal. So 13 points right straight up. Finally, Clemson strings together that big play that, to me, all started with running the ball with Adam Randall. Adam Randall had a huge first down run for 30 yards to get that play going. And again, it goes back to Adam Randall. You can't really hate on Adam Randall. He's doing the best he can do, and he's actually doing a really good job at it. Adam Randall, 15 carries for 80 yards, 5.3 yards per carry. I told you this before. What is a top 50 in the country? Top 50 in the country is 4.5 yards per carry. So another game. This is back-to-back games, 5.3 yards per carry with a touchdown. Adam Randall's not the problem. But the big thing is, again, the turnovers. And it's not Antonio Williams either. Don't give me the Antonio Williams stuff either. This game was all about a close game, 2 evenly matched teams, one team that knew what they wanted to do on offense, it was going to control the ball, and another team that didn't really know, but was trying to figure things out, and unfortunately had a bunch of turnovers. Because they come out right after halftime, and it wasn't so much that Cade threw the interception, but it was just where he threw it. They came out at halftime rolling, going down the field, got to the 9-yard line. And instead of continuing to run, I believe, what was it? It was 1st and 10, actually. So Adam Randall ran it 1st and 10 for 9 yards. He got 2 yards. So it was 2nd and 8. So 2nd and 8 at the Georgia Tech 9-yard line. 2nd and 8, throw a slant to TJ Moore. TJ Moore, has he been able to get open all season? No. We know that. TJ Moore has not been able to get open all season. Throw a slant to TJ Moore. He hasn't been able to get separation all season, but throw a slant to him in the red zone. Okay? You got a running back that's getting 5.3 yards per carry. Don't run it with him on 2nd down. You just ran it. You ran it with him on 1st down. Can't run it with him again. Can't run it with your quarterback, who's got 3.6 yards per carry. You can do a slant to TJ Moore, who hasn't been able to get separation. And I had flashbacks of the Patriots-Seahawks Super Bowl. Did you not tell me right now in chat? Did you not have a flashback of the Patriots-Seahawks Super Bowl? I mean, you got Marshawn Lynch not getting the ball You throw a slant, the Patriots get an interception, Super Bowl's lost. That's what I thought. Do I blame Cade on that one? I mean, Cade's going to stare down on that slant no matter what. A quick slant, Cade's going to stare that down no matter what. I feel like most quarterbacks are going to stare that down. You don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time there. You're thinking quick slant, snap, hike, turn, throw, right? You don't have much time. So to me, I'm not saying that Cade Klubnik shouldn't, is not a concern too. His 2 turnovers are a concern, but that to me was not a very good play call. Second down, 9. And again, chat, I hear what you're saying. I'm not saying saying Adam Randall is Marshawn Lynch, and that to me is not what I'm saying. I'm saying the play situation was the similar situation. Clemson has their strength in running, and yet they do a slant to a guy who hasn't really proven that he's gotten separation. So to me, that is a big head scratcher from the play calling perspective. Now, I see a lot of people in chat saying they would really more lean towards Cade on that one. John says DJ has a better record, does he not? Well, DJ only lost like 5 games in like 3 years. I think if you count the ones that he actually started, he only lost like 5 games. Maybe 4, maybe in 2 years. I think it was 4 games or 5 games in 2 years. He really didn't lose a ton of games. People say that he had a better season and a better career at Oregon State. He did not. His stats were equal to or better than at Clemson, and he had way more wins at Clemson. So DJ's best case scenario was at Clemson, whether people want to admit that or not. He had his best college career at Clemson. He had a terrible one at Florida State. He had an average one at Oregon State. And really, his completion percentage, I think, got a little bit better because they were running the ball more. And they were more play action, pro style offense. But at the end of the day, this is a loss. This is a second loss in the season, only 3 games into the season. We're not even through with September. And you have what? How many more games in September left? I mean, you have Syracuse, and then my mind's going blank here. You have Syracuse next, and then you have a bye week. So you have one more game left in September. And I'm telling you, Clemson doesn't have that great of a schedule as far as these guaranteed wins that you've always been used to as a Clemson fan. John gets in there and agrees on the chat. Syracuse not going to be easy. A lot of these teams on this schedule not going to be easy. So, to me, another slow start, frustrating. Turnovers played a huge deal in this game. Not just turnovers, but I'm counting the missed field goal as a turnover. I mean, fumble, missed field goal, punt, and by that time they were up two scores, 13-0. But remember, Clemson did have the lead. But the biggest thing is when they got the lead, they ended up going 2 3-and-outs. They actually were able to string together another 75-yard drive at the very end of the game. So they had one like at the end of the first half and one at the end of the game. But you could feel that in that scenario with 3 minutes left on the clock, that the way that Georgia Tech played the game, they were the last person to have the ball, and the last person to have the ball won the game by 3. And I told you on the spread, 3.5, never take a 3.5. I don't like half a point. Vegas has made billions on a half a point. I'm telling you right now, I did not take it in the Roar Pick'em contest. I took the plus 3.5 because the half a point will screw you. I'm telling you. Now, I didn't really want Georgia Tech to actually win the game, but all right. So no more ranting on the turnovers. No more ranting on the slow starts. I'm going to go on break here again, and I'm going to, give a shout out to our sponsors, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to read some of your comments. And then I'll tell you what can Clemson possibly do next moving forward, because I know I want to know what y'all think as well in the chat. What Clemson can possibly do next moving forward. We have a ton of people in here, so thank you so much. Hey, I want to let you know when I'm on top of my hydration, I notice that everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, and my skin, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why I've been going with the Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading sports drink. And they actually have 0 sugar variety packs that I've been getting in on. And I like the peach flavor. That's my big go-to right now. So you get that. It's a game changer. Get it after a workout. You'll love it. I like it when I go on my flying trips. You know, you never want to be dehydrated when you're up like 7,000 feet in the air. You definitely don't want that, especially when you're doing all kinds of maneuvers. And right now I'm doing a lot of instrument approaches. So you don't want to be dehydrated when you're going through under the hood. So right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head over to dripdrop.com and use promo code Locked On College. That's dripdrop.com, promo code Locked On College for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. And this episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It is the weekend, and it's time to crown the MVP of Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. I'm telling you, you got to get on these DoorDash Streaks, because if you keep ordering every Saturday, it just kind of builds up for you. I've already given him a shout out in the previous break, but I'll give him a shout out again. I mean, you got to give it to Bryant Wesco Jr., 124 yards receiving, 7 receptions, and 1 touchdown, 1 big, like 73-yarder too, which Clemson desperately needed. And he's been the guy on the offense that's risen to the occasion so far early on in the season. So when the pressure is on, you can count on Bryant Wesco to get open and, take it down the field. Just like he delivers, Bryant Wesco delivers for Clemson, DoorDash delivers on Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season long, and you could save up to $250 and including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, let's get in here in the chat. Brandon gets in and says, this season is over. The season's obviously not over. I mean, you still got to play out this season. You still going to have, I'm sure you still have tickets, Brandon. I'm sure you're still going to go to a couple of games. This might be one of those seasons where you just take your daughter, take your son, take your nieces and nephews, take the girlfriend you got. Hey, you know what? The game might not be fun, but hanging out with you might be the fun part about it. I mean, you just got to go back to when we were kids, right? When I was a kid, it was all about Travis Zachary running the ball 3 times and then the punter coming out. That's what I have to remember is, you know what? We've had bad seasons. We've had worse seasons. Now we haven't had them really with Dabo like this. And hopefully this team can rebound. I mean, they still have a lot of talent. Could they go 10-2? I'm going to be the sunshine pumper for a minute. Okay. They got Syracuse at home. You can rebound against that. You can beat Syracuse at home. You got the Clemson faithful there with you. You could do that, right? You got North Carolina away. I mean, Bill Belichick, he doesn't really seem to still have figured it out yet. Maybe you could take advantage of Bill Belichick. Okay. So then you got 2 wins now. Now you're 3-2, and you got Boston College. Now that one might be tough, but Clemson goes up to Boston College and they've won many times up there. So, that's possible. So now you're 4-3. SMU is going to be a tough one. That's 50-50 for me. I don't know, but let's say because you're at home, you can squeak that one out. Now let's say that Cade Klubnik figures something out. You're getting closer to November. They get Duke and you get a win there. It's possible. It's possible. I mean, if you want to be super positive, you could say they're 1-2 overall right now. So Syracuse win, North Carolina win, Boston College win. So that's 3 wins. So that's 3-2, right? Or no, that's 4-2. SMU will say 4-4. Duke will say 5-4. Florida State will say 5-5. Louisville will say 5-6. Furman 6-6. South Carolina. So pessimistically, you could probably say 6-7's on the table. 6-7. I got my Clemson helmet back here. If you're watching on YouTube, I got my Clemson helmet. Usually, I put my Clemson helmet on when something great happens, and I'll do a podcast with the helmet on the whole time, even though it kind of hurts my temples. But and I know I got a big forehead, but when you look at not playing well, maybe I put the helmet on so you can't see me, almost like a paper bag. 6-7 is paper bag. Is that paper bag time? Is that paper bag time? Let's be super optimistic now. So let's say that they go on a tear and, let's say 1-2. I guess they couldn't really be 6-7. They'd have to be 5-7. My numbers are wrong somewhere, or they'd be 6-6. So my math is wrong. But either way, I don't claim to be very good at addition. But if you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say they win all the home games. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 5 home games. So that puts you at 6-2. You got to think with the 1, 2, 3, 4 away games, you got to think you should be able to win 2 of those. So that puts you at 8. You could be 8-4. Why not 8-4? Okay. Why not 8-4? Give me an argument about 8-4. Give me an argument against 8-4. I could see it. I could see struggling at Louisville. I could see struggling at South Carolina, but you never know with a rivalry game. You really never know. I could see struggling at Florida State, or no, not at Florida State. You're there. They're at home. But yeah, you definitely have a scenario where you start losing some home games. Then you'd be really, really frustrated. SMU as well. I mean, they're not guaranteed to come in and come into Clemson and really tear them up. So give me all the home games to win, even the Florida State game. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins. That puts you at 6-2. Give me North Carolina and Boston College wins. That puts you at 8-2. Give me Louisville and South Carolina losses. That puts me at 8-4. Let's say you squeak one out against South Carolina, luckily. I mean, you usually have a pretty good record, even with Cade down there in Columbia. So let's say you're a 9-win season. You're 9-3. You're 9-3. And then you know what you're saying? Hey, look at that. And we strung together another 9-win season. So, you can make something out of this season. I would not say, Brandon, that it is completely out to rebound. Does it look like they will be able to? Ability to do so and opportunity to do so, don't get those confused as I'm talking here. Okay. You know what's not really scary for me is the 2025 season, because the 2025 season was supposed to be like the stacked team season. That's not what's scary to me. So if anybody can rebound, it's got to be this team. What's scary to me is the 2026 team. That's what's scary to me, because you mean to tell me you're going to march into Baton Rouge with Christopher Vezina? I mean, and I don't dislike Christopher Vezina, but he's not able to beat out Cade Klubnik. And you're going to march him into a hostile environment against LSU. Now there's rumors that they won't make that the first game of the season. There's rumors that they'll make that the second game of the season. But, I don't know who you march out there as a quarterback in 2026, but 2026 worries me a little more than 2025 because 2025 actually has a bunch of dudes, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at with the team. How are you feeling about the 2016? This is like a 2016 team. How you feeling about that now? You know? Oh, that struggled against Troy. That's just like the 2016 team. See, this is what I said on the radio. It's disrespectful to say anything like they're the 2016 team because the 2016 team had 22 NFL draft picks. Many of them are still in the NFL doing well, and 7 first rounders. 7. And not just on the offense. The 2016 team was completely different than this team. And they were up by multiple scores against Troy. Troy actually came back late in that game. And the 2016 team wasn't confused about who they were on offense. That's another thing. The 2016 team never was treading water on offense. Deshaun Watson would die than tread water. Okay, he would throw 15 interceptions than tread water on offense. He was going to try to move the ball down the field. Okay, for better or worse, and for most of the time he would do that. He would move the ball down the field. I mean, my goodness, everybody talks about, oh well, they lost to Pittsburgh too. They lost to Pittsburgh, and Deshaun Watson threw for 580 yards. 580 yards. So this offense and this team, yeah, they may both have played Troy. They may have both played Troy and both struggled against Troy, but these teams are different, man. And that's okay. That's okay because you don't compare teams. I don't like that at all. Especially ones that actually went to back-to-back national championships. I mean, nobody's touching that team. Nobody's touching that team. Or at least that group of guys that stuck with them. So at the end of the day, and I'm going to wrap it up here because, I told my wife I was not going to do a 3-hour-long loser support group. You remember the loser support group that I used to do on my YouTube channel, The Morgan Thomas Show? Well, I'm here now on Locked On. So, I mean, I'm not going to call it the loser support group, but at the end of the day, we are supporting each other in this loss. But, and I'm not going to go for 3 hours, but I will tell you this. There's still plenty of opportunity the rest of the season to right the ship. That's what you got to focus on in this team is if you are willing to continue to watch them, then you've got to go to these games and you've got to continue to support them and continue to have their back. I would say at this point, before I would say the booing was justified. At this point, we know what we know about this team. Again, it's a duck is a duck is a duck. If they outperform 6 wins, then we got to take that as a good thing at this point. If they get 9 wins, then you got to think, wow, this team really figured something out. And I'm glad I got to watch it. That we've got to change our mentality here. Because sitting here and, yelling at the sun about not being 16-0, we got to move on from that because that ship has sailed. This team may not make it to the ACC championship game now. They've got to be perfect in the ACC. Is that possible with SMU, Duke, Florida State, Louisville back to back to back to back? It's going to be extremely difficult. It's going to be extremely difficult. And I'll say, John, I know some people have also mentioned, I'm not picking on you, John, here, but the $11 million thing, I want to say we have to remember perspective here. And I'm going to sound like a radio guy homer here. But the $11 million, our salaries is based on what we've proven we can do. Our salaries is based on our past results, whether it be at my old corporate job or whether when I eventually get to the airlines, flying planes, my salary is going to be based on my experience, my education, and what I've done for the company over time, and all based on the past. You know, bonuses are in Dabo Swinney's contract, and he may not be able to get some of those this year because he won't have had a successful of a season. So there are bonuses built in that he won't be able to achieve, and that's what you want. But the salary part of it, the salary is his work over time, right? His work over years. So I don't beat anybody up over their salary, you know, unless you're somebody who's a brand new CEO who was brought in with a ton of money and no experience, and you're 24 years old, something like that. Dabo is not that. Dabo is not some young whippersnapper, you know. I mean, he's been through a lot. He's coached longer than I've been alive, and he's won national championships. So to be one of the highest paid coaches in the country, he has earned that. And we have to admit that. We all know that. He may not earn his bonuses this year. And that's the way it's built. That's the way it's designed. If they go 8-4, if they go 7-5, 6-6, then to me, there would have to be a philosophy they're not necessarily changing your beliefs and your values, but there would have to be some sort of strategy change. If you have a average season or a 7 or 8 win season, even if you have a 9-win season, which to me would be probably the ceiling right now, based on my feeling, you know, I would say there has to be some more admission around your roster, you know, and in the day and age where you have free agency, open free agency, non-contract free agency, there's really no excuse. And I hate to say this, and maybe this is why Nick Saban got out of college football. But if you're not willing to embrace free agency fully and say, you know what? I like the players we have. It's okay to say you like the players you have, but you can't go through and lose half your games with the players you have and barely use the free agent market. And it's the transfer portal, you know. And I've been a big person against the transfer portal because I believe in what Dabo Swinney believes in. I believe in building up players. I believe college is developmental. I believe recruiting and building those guys up. But we know what recruiting does. Recruiting takes a while to develop. You have to supplement with guys that are already in the college football developmental process. They're already a little bit older. They've already been to the weight room. They've already been in the nutrition plan. So you have to have more. We see Will Helt's one of the better guys on the defense. We still have yet to see anything from Tristan Smith. He barely ever gets used. And we did see a little bit of Jeremiah Alexander today. But the days of going in the transfer portal for guys you're going to barely use are the days of the past, in my opinion. You know, you can love the guys you have, but you can also say, hey, you know what? For my career, I cannot, and for the sake of my team, and I cannot keep this person in this position as the starter. I have to find someone else that can fix this, you know, that can replace this person. You know, and it sounds terrible to say that, but we're in a day and age where these guys are getting paid to play their position. And these guys that are getting paid and sitting on the bench for 5 years, 4 years, maybe only playing special teams and getting paid. You know, I don't know how much they're getting paid, but, you know, that's another thing you got to scratch your head about. I mean, LSU beat Clemson, and they were the number 1 transfer portal team in the country in 2025. You saw what they had. They had a lot of speed and a lot of talent all over the place. And it was hard to find what their weaknesses were. So That's the thing. I think you have to have balance. It goes back to, I'm not saying you need to go and do the Deion Sanders and wipe the slate clean completely. But you've got to use the free agency market seriously. And I'm not really saying this about 2025 because we can't go back for 2025. But what I am saying is for 2026, to me, I am not thrilled about going into Baton Rouge without a significant investment into the transfer portal. This team's losing a lot of players, and they're going to need them on the offensive line. They needed them this year on the offensive line. They're going to need them next year. They're going to need a quarterback, and they're going to need probably a running back, to be honest with you. And you can like who you have, but we know that Dabo's okay with supplementing where there's gaps. Well, there's got to be a little bit more of an admission that there are gaps. And I know what you're going to say. I know what some people are going to say. Well, this was just a 3-point loss. This was a late last-second field goal. It's not just about that, though. We know that. It's about the struggling on offense, the lack of consistency, the turnovers, yet again, starting the game off, not knowing what you're doing, not being able to figure things out. And it's about not having like key players to take over a game, making a little bitty mistakes here and there. It'd be one thing if this was your first loss and you beat LSU and you beat Troy convincingly or with confidence. But now you got 2 losses. Is the season over? The season's not over. But I'm interested to see how this team goes. Again, you could say the season's over, but to me, if I were you, I would encourage you to go to the games, enjoy the games, take your friends, take your family, and maybe just temper your expectations a little bit. There's still possibilities for this team to figure things out. There's still possibilities for Cade to get better and for the offense to figure things out. And then they could go on a tear and, the max you could do is 10 wins with 4 away games left. To me, that's hard, but you still got 10-2 on the table if you want to be a super sunshine pumper. And then, like I said, 8-9 looking more realistic than anything. But if they don't, then yeah, you need to go ahead and guard your heart. If they still keep having turnovers like this, if they still can't get out the gate quickly and are sluggish or not scoring in 2 quarters of a game, losing the time of possession, then you're going to be flirting with 7. So you got to guard your heart on that one too. And at the end of the day, it's just a football game. It's a team we like, we cheer for. But as I close today, and I really appreciate everybody being a part of the show, because as you know, and maybe you don't know, but I did my own show for 5 years on YouTube and Facebook, and then got kind of burnt out. Started doing the radio more with Mickey Plyler and 105.5 The Roar, and then doing my own show. I still have my own show 7 to 9 every Tuesday night on 105.5 The Roar. You can check that out if you're local on the radio, or you can check it out on the app. I still do that show. I have intern Ashley with me every Tuesday night. We'll do it all throughout the season. But last year, I left my corporate job, a big, nasty, fluorescent light corporate job. And now I'm just about finished with flight school, working on my certified flight instructor instrument rating this week and trying to find a job teaching, instructing. But that's my goal right now. And in the meantime, Locked On reached out to me and said, hey, I know you're not doing YouTube anymore, but we'd like to have you because we enjoyed the podcast. And I said, hey, if you guys can support me in these ways, then I would love that. And so it's been a great partnership to work for Locked On so far. It's different, it's not my own show anymore, but it is fun. It's a great partnership. And so I thank you, everybody, for coming in and being a part of the show and helping support me, because every single view, every single like, every single subscribe, gives me a little bit to help pay for some gas money for my flights. So I appreciate that. I don't want you to think that you are unappreciated here on Locked On Clemson, for sure. So, but we still have a ton of season left, and I'm going to be here with you through it as we get through for sure. So I hope you are as well. But thank you again so much for being a part of this post-game show. I wanted to say also, before we finish up, Locked On has a new show. It's on Fire TV called College Football Kickoff. It's your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts, including me. I was on there this week. And college football preview show only Locked On can do. Catch Locked On Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. And again, there's a lot of things been going on this week that's been got me very, very sad for our country. I don't know if you know, but I am a veteran myself. I've served in the Army for 8 years. And I want to let you know too, that I'm proud to be an American, and go out there and give somebody you love a hug today on me. All right. So thank you so much. And as always, Tiger fans, hey, I'll see you on Monday, and I'll see you at the top of the hill.